Good afternoon, B3L. It's Roats DB here, coming to you on a Monday afternoon. Uh, quite an interesting weekend here. A little bit volatile in the crypto space and the crypto markets, which has played into some interesting activity here. May notice in my voice I am a bit under the weather right now. Um, got a bit of a bug here that I cannot seem to fight off. So we're gonna battle through it. Might be a little shorter than normal. We'll see how it goes. But did want to get together, get out an update, and see what's going on in the market and where everything is at. So, like I said, the overall market right now is in this downtrend across most majors on the crypto side of things, and as a result, we're in this kind of bleeding activity. I mean, it's somewhat sideways, and for the most part, that's generally pretty positive for NFTs. And we've seen bouts of positive activity with NFTs, but it's I think there's a degree of uncertainty on whether or not we're headed on this next leg up, or if we're going to retrace or trend down further. So it's pretty interesting across the board on where things are at. If I were to say my gut right now is probably leaning bearish, and you know that might might be positive, right? Because it always seems to do opposite of what the general sentiment is. But my sentiment is that we're looking like we could uh, dump further. I don't know if it's the 58 range or lower, or where we're at before maybe we look at the next leg up. So that's where I look at on the crypto macro. He's had a bit of a bounce, kind of a run up, and then retracement. All kinds of things on whether or not or what might have been the driver of the ETH run here. Um, I think the common consensus is it's possibly related to the Eigenlayer airdrop, which is supposed to be pretty massive. The other airdrop that was supposedly happening here today has been pushed back to Thursday, and that's the Friendtech airdrop. I'm pretty bearish on Friendtech overall. It had its brief moment, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm not really crossing my fingers on that. And then yeah, I mean, like I said, most majors are trending downward, and looking, um, you know, at least short midterm bearish. If we look at daily, weekly, it's better, right? We're still in that uptrend overall, so it's not necessarily all doom and gloom. Although we are now starting to test on it looks like the 12-hour range on Solana, ETH similar. So looking at the 12-hour support range here, so um, going to be an interesting few weeks, at least on the crypto side of things, and take a look at NFTs. NFTs have been kind of up and down. We get these brief moments where it seems like we get some good attention in the ETH NFT space, and then it kind of fades, and then it's another spike. So it kind of continues, goes on. We had a really big Alien Punk sale here 5 days ago, so that's where you see this big volume spike. Uh, Great to see these large sales. Although the seller, pretty sure Deepak, that kind of plays a little bit interesting to me. That Deepak is making the sale, but obviously Deepak has more than just the one alien in the crypto punk bag there, so it's not necessarily all bad. Volumes though trending downward here over the last few days. Some of the lower volume days that we've had, um, really dating back to mid-November, where we kind of went into that rally thereafter. Buyer to seller ratio is actually pretty strong and trending upward for the last few days, so that's good to see. Um, Buyer sellers trending downward, but pretty consistent really over since March through to April. So that's all right. Each sales, daily transactions is down, a little less blur farming, etc. So not necessarily too bad, but still hovering up in that 10-12 range, which is not really indifferent to where we've been for a lot of the cycle, so not bad. Uh, Unique traders again pretty flat, pretty consistent over the last since March, almost 2 months now. And ETH blue chip index is now fading downward to where it was. Again, we went into this kind of surge through mid October into November. And so as a result, we see more of a pullback to where uh, ETH NFTs are over that 6 month range, just because of the success that we had. We were in our previous real cycle or range low was October, and then we kind of pulled back there. So we're down about 30% on blue chip NFTs, some more than others. Still up in ETH terms. Of course, ETH has performed well over that range. We have some runs here over the last week. A lot of the blue chips actually up over the last week, so that's good, and some over the last 30 as well, which is great to see because last time we kind of went through one of these cycles, it was just about everything on the downside. So a bit of a relief valley, and I'm really excited to kind of dig into Parsec and look at some of the primary collections there and what's actually happening, because I think that's gonna help clarify. Mid caps actually right at even over the last 6 months. So that's actually still pretty positive. They've held and up in ETH terms. A lot of projects doing well over the last week, and then a few doing quite well over the last month here as well. So that's good to see. So that's kind of the general pulse on the ETH market. I want to take a look at Parsec. I'm going to pause as we have some of you that have joined. Feel free to toss anything into chat or just hop on voice. Like I said, I'm under the weather, so I'm pushing through it, but battling a bit of a sickness. Of course, I'm off to a hockey game here as well uh, tomorrow night, and got to do some driving and all that kind of stuff. So, not ideal to be under the weather to go to a game, but we'll do it because I'm excited for it. So. We'll see how that turns out. Yeah. So we had this nice so we're looking at apes, a nice run in apes last week. Really pushed up, and now we've kind of given back a lot of that activity. We do have this support range here at 12.8. So hold that, and maybe continue upward thereafter. That would be all right. So not looking too bad. Let's see here. This retracement level is also pretty good, right at the bottom of the 0.618. On that, did I get this drawn backwards? I tend to do that. Never mind. So no, we've actually gone lower. So 0.38. So yeah, I did draw backwards. So a bit of a pretty, basically giving back a lot of what we gained here over this kind of run, which is not ideal. But like I said, some support in this 12-13 range. Get out of here. With it. You see this breakout lined up really well with this kind of long-term downtrend for pudgies. They've moved out and are now looking to possibly retest 10.4 and then hopefully continue a bit of a sideways move or a move up. So that could signal kind of part of the bottom for apes and pudgies, mutants. Let's see where we're at there. Hmm. Take another look here on where what seems of interest on that. The mutant chart's pretty interesting on the daily at least. Weekly, bit of a bounce. Yeah, so there's almost a bit of support here in this 2.4, 2.3 range. Just on the weekly, and if we go to the daily, I think it's a bit of a similar scenario. Possible support in the 2.3 range here. Um, but yeah, a pullback in general across the the major ETH NFTs. Punks are super stable as they have been, kind of ranging here for some time here over the last uh, several days. Um, Not a lot of obviously activity in it, so it's a little harder to measure punks and where they're at. But almost looks like it's um, a good bit of consolidation. Hopefully for before a pop. Zuki. The rare MacBook fan is on right now. This is crazy. Um, yeah, so most everything has kind of bounced here off of the late April bounce. Has retraced and then looking for support to move upward some more. So I don't know. I don't think most ETH NFTs don't look too bad. It's a matter of whether or not we can kind of push some more green candles here on a lot of them. So, but overall, I think generally speaking, it's pretty all right compared to where we've been at. At least seeing that kind of positive move and bounce. One of the stronger ones that we've had over the range is Milady's, and their overall look actually pretty good in this. I'd say from 4.5 to 5 ETH range is where they'll kind of look to push here. So overall, pretty positive on Milady's as and they've performed well kind of throughout with everything there. Last up, captains. Captains is a lot like the punks chart actually, kind of down here, consolidating a bit. No move up over that kind of April 25th, just a bit of a bump up, given right back. So they're kind of trading at their lows. There is some support about 2.95, but they've really been in this consolidation zone um, for for a good almost month here, and so look to see whether or not there's a bounce out of that with captains. I think you could probably look for sideways activity here for May, and I think a lot of it is again depending on what the macro looks like for crypto on what NFTs will kind of do. With that, I'm gonna pause, see if there's any comments, questions. I should have taken some my morning drugs have kind of worn off, so I'm faded already, kind of right now, but from the cold medication. But let's see how we do.
Hey, Ritz.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hey, I joined a little late, so I'm not sure if you mentioned anything, but did you have any thoughts on Moonbirds and whatever they announced today about next steps?
I didn't see a Moonbirds announcement, so I am actually not aware. I spent my day trying to wrap up some work stuff before my trek to Vancouver here. So I haven't been on the X side of things here. So let's see.
Yeah, I don't know too much. I just sort of scanned the headlines, but just curious if you knew anything.
Mm-hmm. Moonbirds universe. This is where it's really interesting. Is that we have the dynamic of Yuga and Yuga really focusing and leaning into apes and kind of what they've created and try to get back to that community and the roots of that. Then there's the acquisition of Moonbirds, kind of really a play of capital infusion, I think, for the most part, the treasury and bringing that in. So Yuga has a stronger treasury and can use that. Of course, the team at Moonbirds is pretty strong, although having a history of challenging deliverables and that kind of aspect. And then Yuga really focuses in more, changes, moves out Daniel, and moves into Greg as CEO, and trims the team and trims some of the gaming aspects off, which is quite interesting. Of course, Moonbirds, everything that's going on here would have been, I would assume, activity and elements that they were building prior to being acquired, and whether or not they got a little bit more focus or what the aspect is. Um, but it's good to see that um, you know there's something coming out, which hasn't really been the case for other aspects of what Yuga's done or acquired. If you want to go look at um, Meebits or Punk's obviously just kind of stand alone. 10K TF was pretty stagnant for a period of time. Um, so I like uh, the IP elements and everything that's kind of there with Moonbirds. So it's good. It's a question of whether or not Moonbirds themselves and that brand and that project has been kind of beat down too much from everything that kind of went on from the highs to fallout with Kevin, and then kind of tossed over to Yuga. That can be seen both positive or negative. But I don't know. I think I would wait on it to see more come from Moonbirds before I would feel like I'd want to uh, jump on because is it just a short term kind of move up from the announcements, etc., or is it something that's gonna give back? Now, of course, if there's no pump on that, I'll kind of want to look at parsec for moonbirds. Um, Looks like there's a bit of a move, but if it's not too bad, then it's probably not necessarily uh, you know they're mostly bottomed out as it is, right? Come on, parsec, give me moonbirds. Could just go to blur. Hmm. Yeah, I'd say 0.55 is where ideally you're able to get in on moonbirds. Um, Buying into this kind of move up here feels like it's uh, not ideal. I would expect that they move back, um, but like I said, it's pretty good to see the continued move here with development and activity on the Moonbirds group, because there was a time that they were really considered a what top 5 NFT collection PFP for at least for a period of time. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of most I can kind of get in there on on the the initial look.
Yeah, thanks. I'll do a little more research too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too much about what they're doing, but it is. I'm curious to know if they just at this point move with all the other Yuga assets. Um, if Yuga does well, does Moonbirds do well, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you would kind of hope that Moonbirds is able to push separate of Yuga, right? And kind of stand as their own entity. Um, you know, because apes themselves need to really lean in and focus on apes and the culture and that element. I think for the most part, I I would expect things to kind of stay separate. Of course, if apes are starting to perform really well and the vibes are back and everyone's back into believing that they're on the right path, then yeah, of course, I think moonbirds will catch a bit of tailwinds with that. But for the most part, they need to kind of hold separate, continue to build and lean into what moonbirds are about, which is that art side of things and the uh, that aspect. So I'm curious to see how they go. But if I'm looking at moonbirds versus everything else that's out there, um, I'm still more hesitant on moonbirds on where they're at, just given kind of all the challenges that they've gone through over the last year and a half or so. And I still like moonbirds a lot. It's just it's kind of a wait and see for the most part there. Gonna take a look at some meme coins. Really just kind of going through the general overview of where most projects are at, um, and kind of get a feel for um, where the meme cycle is overall. There has been a periodic winners, nice calls out of the B3L group in the meme and degen channels. meme coins themselves are, for the most part, trending sideways or down. So they're not in an uptrend at the moment. Uh, but looking, that's going to follow along really with the crypto market. Uh, but just seeing where some of these are. Brett took a massive kind of hit here with this kind of news about the 80% team ownership on it. It has since recovered and holding a bit kind of in line with trend. But what you're looking for here is any kind of bright spots with any tokens that are at least outperforming or in an uptrend. Um, and there's actually, looking at Pepe's strong on the 4 hour and daily, a bit weaker on the shorter ranges here. Of course, the weekend was pretty rough in general for crypto. A lot of it's going to play into how earnings go, etc., and then whether or not um, the the Fed is looking at rates and how they communicate where rates are going forward. If they're looking at a rate increase here this year instead of decreases, then I think there's going to be a lot of down movement across the market. So that's I think the concern. And then there's some fallout from what's been going on in the Japanese yen and etc. So lots of macro stuff going on that makes a lot of this a little harder. And I think FG kind of summed it in a pretty good way that this is the 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 park and take it easy. At least in the macro and the stock side of it, go away in May. Kind of leaning in a little bit here, but crypto kind of plays a little bit to the side of that, especially with where the market's at. So we'll watch on where things are. Yeah, many are kind of looking somewhat uh, weak at the moment, so not seeing a lot of strength across most meme coins. We also had the fun of the Cool Man's token release. Again, another scenario of team in 80%, although it was a pretty good breakdown of that, I think, on um, FOMO Hour on how that whole process works, right? So when a coin is launched, the team kind of has to accumulate, otherwise it's picked up by bots and then it's dumped. So it's not necessarily uncommon for accumulation, but then it's usually given out for market making and just kind of to build up that liquidity pool. So um, it's it, it's harder to say what goes on there, but this one just completely dumped and is Not looking good. Richie's chart looks super strong though still. Market cap still only 69, so yeah, I mean that's it's in a really good uptrend at the moment. A bit of topping potentially here in the last several hours. So probably want to break above into all-time highs again here for an entry. But overall the uptrend is quite quite good on Michi. But yeah, most everything else is really in line with where majors are at, which are for the most part in this downtrend. Bitcoin, it's so hard to give a gauge where it kind of goes. There's been kind of some comparison to um, kind of this pattern and then down into as low as say 50K. So it's still quite possible. But it's, I mean, sideways activity for the most part. 62 has been providing pretty good support, so it could continue this bounce off of that. But it's downtrend overall. So and then we'll take a look at ordinals. They have been a bit more quiet here as of late, which is fair. They were performing pretty strong overall. Node monks, puppets, 0.28, 0.34, almost in a nice range here for them. Of course, you're still waiting out uh, what the overall crypto itself is doing before you really want to look at it. These charts are harder to work with, and they kind of bug out here on Magic Eden, which is somewhat frustrating. I'd like to get a longer look here on the 3 month, but come on, give me the longer look. There we go. And it kind of looks like this 0.3 range, 0.35 range has been pretty good for node monks over the range. Um, so it's possible that it can get a move off of there, but it's in this point that if it doesn't hold it, then you're a little rougher back down to say 2.5. Jeez, come on. think puppets have more of a range to go back to as low as point 0.2. And quantum cats actually look reasonably strong here. I think we're a little bit off this trend, breaking this kind of brief uptrend here. Um, so not necessarily the best entry point, but they do look a little bit more positive to the rest. But I think if I were looking at any of the ordinals, node monks seem to kind of be the general leader there, and point 0.3, I think could be a nice range there for them to pick and bounce and then get an entry in on them, which is where they're at right now. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? If not, I will post this video up. Sorry, I'm not super lively here today. Like I said, just battling something, and it's carried on for about a week, which is the worst part of it. Is that you want to get well, and then it just doesn't fully recover, and it's frustrating. All right. Well, I'm going to go take some medication. We'll catch you guys later. We're going to say go Canucks here for the game tomorrow night. You will not see me on the TV, even though I'll be there. If you are watching the games, I'm not sure how many hockey fans we have kicking around, but yeah, I'm excited to go. It's going to be fun. And hopefully I survive it. Hopefully I am feeling well enough to, to go hard for the game. And yeah, we'll catch you guys again. I think we got Thursday spaces, and then we will probably keep you posted on our next meme cycle trading session as well, and go from there. So thank you for joining in, and we'll catch you soon.